I'm Lindsey McCarty, and I am a petroleum engineer for a small oil company. I've been in a STEM role for over a decade now and have had such an amazing experience that I am evangelical about the opportunities and roles for women in engineering and, in a broader sense, all STEM fields. I have seen with my own eyes how possible it is to have an outstanding career, a fulfilling career, a career that lets me also be home at dinner every night to raise my children. And I have made it a personal goal to, by the time I retire, see an engineering and STEM world that looks a lot more female than the one that I entered 10 years ago. I want to talk a little bit today about 5 things that I think we can do for young women to help encourage more to consider STEM fields in their career. The first thing that I think is really important is exposure. I think this is the biggest challenge that STEM fields face compared to other fields like teaching, sports, movie stars, even medical to some degree, nursing and doctors. Middle schoolers in particular have exposure to those things in their normal course of life. They go to the doctor, they go to school. So most people in that age bracket have some level of exposure and awareness of those as career options. That is not true for a lot of other STEM fields. I'm an engineer. I know in particular engineering suffers from this. I imagine that physics, programming, those kinds of things also probably have some of the same challenges in that many people just don't know what they are. They don't know what they do. They don't know why they should be interested in it. And so it never really crosses their mind. And so I think awareness is the biggest hurdle and one to really try to defeat in order to entice more people in general, but specifically women, to consider careers in STEM fields. It doesn't have to be a person or a family member that is an engineer to convince someone else to be an engineer, or that a cousin that programs. It doesn't have to be that close to a person. I have a friend that's an engineer today because she watched the movie Apollo 13 as a kid. So I think there are a lot of different ways to combat this, and I want to be a part of that solution. Exposure is key. The second thing that I think is really important is to help turn the tables a little bit on math. Math should not be a boy thing. It should be a human thing. Just like reading is, just like writing is, it's a fundamental skill that for whatever reason our society gives people an out on. I'm not a math person. That's okay. It's hard for a lot of people. You're never going to use it in the real world is a common conversation that I hear even today, and it's got to stop. Math is hard, period. It's hard for me. I'm an engineer, and it's hard. It's hard for people who are great at math. It's just hard, and it takes some resilience and grit to be good at it. And I think if we can change that perspective, that will go a long way, because what I see a lot is that by the time a student gets into the later years in high school and they're selecting a career, it's already too late. They've already decided that they don't like math, or they don't like physics, or they don't like science. And at that point, there's really not a lot of going back. So we need to reach kids at an elementary and middle school level before they give themselves the opportunity to just walk away from the basics that would one day get them into STEM fields. The third thing that I think is really important to communicate for young women considering STEM fields is that there's a place for you. You don't have to be nerdy. You don't have to be a man. There is a place for women in these fields. In fact, there is a need for women in these fields. Women bring different skill sets than men in general to any environment, and there are a lot of soft skills that women bring to businesses and leadership roles that we need more of. So there are going to be so many opportunities in the future if young women will position themselves to be prepared to deliver the skills needed. The fourth thing I would say is that to the extent we can, speak an identity to girls. You are smart, you are capable, you are so good at school, and we get a lot of feedback as women on appearance and good behavior, but we need to influence young women's identity as a capable contributing member of society as well. And then the last thing that I think is critical is just telling girls they can do it. I have polled a group of my friends who are also engineers, and to a person, every single one of them had an example of a parent or a teacher or someone who told them, you can do it. Sometimes that's all it takes. So, in a nutshell, those are my 5 ways to help influence young women and young men, but particularly young women, to consider STEM fields. And I'm going to commit the rest of my career to doing whatever I can to ensure that that changes and we see more women in STEM fields by the time I retire.